Hello, everybody. Gail Craft here from the Empowering Process podcast. And here I am again with yet another amazing person. And this is Heather Abbott. Heather is the owner and founder of Prosperity and Possibilities Presentation, Inc., 3 Ps. Okay, we can go into that too. And Abbott Wealth Education. Her mission is helping heart-centered entrepreneurs take their place amongst the wealthy so we can up-level the world. She has spent decades as a CPA, financial advisor, and mindset worker, and shares this experience combined with her innate magic to help you make friends with your finances and guide you to true prosperity. Heather is going to share her story, and I'm going to actually read a quote from her for you. I have overcome a 25-year marriage where I didn't believe I was abused. But when he shot himself in front of me a week after I moved out, as I ran away, I stopped and looked back to see if he had faked it. It was another 4 months before I realized I had been severely mentally abused. And I love that perspective, Heather, when you realized, right? And I'll just like touch on mine, and then we want to get deep into your story. And I so relate to all of my guests. They're just amazing, this world, how we're synchronized. And I'll talk about my first marriage. And, this man, we had a yo-yo relationship before we got married. And the day that he decided that I was the one, he was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I love you. You're perfect. You're everything that I want. I keep coming back to you because you're the one. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And I was sure that he had made up his mind, that he did love me and that this was the one, until the day we said, I do, practically that day. And it wasn't 3 months where he was, you're sloppy, you're ugly, you're fat. There might be someone better for me out there than you. I'm not sure if you're the one. It is so much going on. And I never told anybody until I was forced to, because I was so embarrassed that I had stepped into this life, this smart, intelligent woman, blindly, I thought, stepped into this life. So Heather, tell us about your story. And how you woke up and how you cleared yourself to be the success that you are right now.
Isn't it sad how shame will keep us in those things because we're so afraid? Mine was very similar. My self-esteem was in the trash because I had gotten dumped for the only time in my life, not long before. But he was so attentive, and they spend the first few months just flattering you, doing everything they can and getting you to open up. So you give all your secrets, and then they use all of that as ammunition against you because they know the weak points. I was 22, so naive. And again, like I said, no self-esteem at the time. And I met him in the summer and I married him in December. Secretly, like we eloped. And it took me a month to tell my parents, which is not a fun thing. But as soon as I moved in with him, it wasn't after we got married, because I was still living in the city and he lived where he had grown up. He had his own house. I moved there in February. And the day that I moved in, it was like the switch went from on to off, or Jekyll to Hyde. Like it was just boing, totally new person. Never seen this person before in my life. The first year of that marriage was the worst year of my life because I hadn't developed coping mechanisms yet. After that, I learned to cope. Scarlett O'Hara is a great one. If you ever watch Gone with the Wind, oh, I can't think about that now. I'll think about that tomorrow. If I think about that now, I'll go crazy. That was me. Just put it off, suck it up. There was like this hard part of me that was protecting me, that was outside of myself, that was always here. I've brought her in. She's part of me now. But well, why are you crying? Like, you don't need to, like, no, just go. The kids need you. You can't, no, you're not abused. No, It actually, the only reason I even ever said that he controlled me with his temper is because a therapist had told me that once. I never went back to that therapist because they scared me. It was only like 5-6 years into the marriage, and I forget why I had gone there. It wasn't for anything particular, and that had come up, and they're like, he's controlling you with his temper. He was 11 years older than me. You need to leave him. And it was like a slap in the face, and it shocked me, and I never went back. But they were right, but their approach to handling me with that was wrong. And because of all the stigma and all the shame, because I still am a very educated woman, a very smart woman, very strong internally, but I've had issues standing up to those outside of me because of a lack of worthiness, self-worth. So it's been a long journey, and it took a long time, and I had to be absolutely fed up with it before I would leave. And I finally did. If you had asked me in the morning if I was going to leave, I would have said no. It was just spur of the moment.
Yeah. And so I put a couple of notes down because I'm like, oh my God, yes. I mean, we're exactly the same. Definitely no coping mechanisms so it took me a while to figure out, I was like, what the heck am I in? What's going on here? Right. Yeah. And so then I did block it out. We went to a marriage counselor, and he walked out, and the marriage counselor looked at me and he said, yeah, you need to make a choice. And I never went back. Okay. Mm-hmm. I am silly. Oh my God, we so track, right? Because I didn't want to admit that there was.
It's not, if people think that we're choosing to stay, and by not choosing to leave, we are, but it's more like when you have 20 things you need to get done and you're sitting on the couch trying to decide which one should become first. That's where we are. We're stuck on the couch. It's not that we're deciding to stay, it's that we haven't figured out the path out.
Right. And I mean, I literally had folks at work telling me, Gail, you got to get out of this. You're better than this. His friends telling me, right, I don't understand. And it's still no. And for me, it was just like you. For me, it was, he came home drunk one night, and I had dinner. He hadn't shown up. I ate dinner. I cleaned up. And he came and it's like, where's dinner? And I went, it's in the fridge. And he raised his hand. And that was it. I had a child, and I thought, she's not growing up thinking this is normal. And I told him, pack your bags and leave. I was shitting my pants. I had no idea what I was going to do. But I knew I wasn't going to put up with that. That was the one thing that was crossing the line for me.
Everything that we truly desire is on the other side of fear. And we just have to learn to reframe the fear. And I say it's hard. And the best advice I can give to anybody in this situation is, well, number one, maybe listen to Brené Brown, or, me, or there's lots of people, but Brené Brown really does a great job on the vulnerability and how it affects you. But the best thing you can do is look to somebody on the outside who's been there, done that. Your problems are not new. And yes, there are women's organizations, there's shelters and things. And I thought, oh, but that's not me. I don't need that. Yeah. I've like, who goes to that? Like, you don't even really know. There's Al-Anon, which can actually help people in those situations. They don't have to be alcoholic for you to go to Al-Anon. It's a support group for people dealing with these personalities that are not normal. And it's really hard to raise your hand and say, that's me. I'm not asking you to start there. I'm asking you that if you are unhappy, I wished he was dead and was jealous of women who I heard had been widowed for most of my marriage. It was a long marriage. Yeah. That is a very good sign that I should have been reaching out for help, especially if you think they have to die for you to get your freedom. I'm not saying you have to admit you're abused or that you have to admit you're in that kind of a situation. All I'm saying is the people at these women's shelters, they have seen the other side of so many different relationships, and they have the knowledge that you're looking for. They have some of the answers. If you reach out to one and they turn you off, like has happened with the psychiatrist or the counselor for us, mull it over. But don't be afraid to reach out to somebody different, someone with a different approach that won't turn you off. But there are people that have been there, done that. Don't keep reaching out to people who are in the same boat as you, because they don't know the other side. That's my best advice for you.
And for me, I believe that as a woman and as a wife, I was a failure, that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't make this man happy. And on the outside, we look like the perfect couple, right? I mean, when we broke up, literally, I got a letter from one of his aunts that her daughter, his niece, was devastated by my choice to leave him.
That still happens. There's still people, but more,
Yeah.
the majority of people after he was dead was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're alive. I've been worried about you for years. I couldn't believe you were with him. Like, I've heard so many things, but there was a piece of advice I got afterward that was one of the most profound things I've ever heard. And if you have issues, or you know someone in a relationship that is not, or you suspect is not great, this is something I want you to tell them, because usually it's an empath like me that will feel the other person's emotions, and we actually worry about them and how they would fare if we left them, how we would hurt them. They've told us they'll commit suicide, all these things. We don't want to take that on. But hear this: just because you see the potential in someone does not mean they have any intention of ever living up to it. And most of these people, the only reason they show that good side is because they realize they've pushed a little too far and they want to pull you back. You're like that ball, the big bouncy ball on the string, and they just keep punching it to see how far they can make it go. And you just whap it, and it's like, oh, I nearly broke the string. No, I got to ease off. That's all they're doing. Hear that.
A great analogy, a great analogy.
Yes.
I mean, my previous relationship, I mean, I met him when I was 14, and we would date and break up and date and break up. I mean, right there, it shows the yo-yo thing happening, right? Yeah, and there are, like you said, organizations that you can go to. I did an interview last year with a woman, and we talked about rape with her. But what I want to talk about here with her story, similar to this, is she went for help and didn't get it, and went someplace else looking for help and got turned away, and went someplace else. She did not give up looking for help. She knew she couldn't figure out how to get out of having poor boundaries, because hers was parental. And so she knew that something was wrong, and she didn't know what the answer was. She needed help in finding her way out. And she just kept going until she found herself the right counselor, the right environment, the right answers, right? So don't give up, keep going, right? Reach out to people who will support you and also call you out from love on, yeah, right? We not someone who's going to commiserate, right, and empathize, someone who's going to say, I know what you're talking about. I know, I totally understand where you're coming from. Let's find a pathway out that works for you. I'm not ready to go.
I actually have compared it, getting out of an abusive relationship to getting over money blocks, because it's a relationship with money. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same.
I love it.
People will tell you what to do. You have severe shame around it. You don't know where to start, how to take action. You don't know what the problem is. You think the problem's you. There's so many similarities. It's uncanny. And in both cases, our brain is a little bit broken. They've actually proven that women coming out of abusive relationships, there's damage to like the amygdala in the brain where there's something happens. It may not be actual damage. So it's Dr. Mona Lisa Schultz was saying about a study that they had done on monkeys where they did something to that part of the brain in the monkeys, and then the monkeys were attracted to their predators. Like if you take a woman who's come out of, especially a long-term abusive relationship, and you put her in a group of hundreds of men and say, who are you attracted to? She will pick out every narcissist in that crowd without realizing it. She will be drawn to that. And that's where you get these idiots who say, well, she must like it. She keeps going out with the same type of guy. No, she does not. She needs help. She has severe issues with self-esteem because you cannot be abused and come out with your self-esteem fully intact. And she is thinking that that's all she deserves. It's not that she likes it. Nobody likes to be treated like that.
Right. No, nobody at such and such a level is going to want me. So I need to find someone who will, right? Who will take me as I am. Now, and I'm all about raw and real, take me as I am, but I don't hide who I am, right? And I don't try to change you. And that's another indicator. I spoke with someone this week who we're talking about coaching because she's in a marriage, and she wants to change him, and I'm like, there's only one person you can change. And if he's not meeting your values, your needs, do you even know what they are? Probably not. Then he's the wrong match for you. It's that simple. There's no anger or shame or guilt. It's finding who you are first so that you can find the right fit. It's like a puzzle piece. You're either forcing the puzzle in and you're breaking off ends, or you just keep trying until you find, all right, this is the shape that I am. The counter shape is this.
I have a question. Because this seems to be the case to me, and I'm wondering if it seems this way to you as well, or to the listeners. Doesn't it seem like when you pick a mate, it's random, it's just it comes about from any number of ways, but once you've picked the person, you try and mold it to whatever it is. It's not that anybody's perfect for you. It's like you try to make whatever relationship you're in work rather than trying to find a different relationship. Am I putting this clearly?
Right.
Like it's you could take a relationship with anybody and try and make it work. That's why arranged marriages, like that's how some of them work, is because once you're in a relationship, you seem to go, maybe it's just me, you tend to go all in and see. I mean, it would take me a while to figure, oh no, this isn't the right one. But am I making sense? Does that?
Absolutely. So here's the difference. Arranged marriages are not created based on emotion. They're created on data, on knowing that, this is important to you and your upbringing and your values. This is important to their upbringing and their values. So it's value driven, right? Value and education and status, but value driven. Most of us who are emotionally driven towards a significant other don't even think about, are my values being met? Don't even think about what are my boundaries and are they getting crossed? I talked with a gentleman one time, and he and his wife, they are on fire. I mean, they fight and they make up and they are on fire all the time. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's that extreme. And he called one time and he goes, I don't understand. She knows my boundaries. I said, and so do you. And you let her cross the boundaries and you didn't say, hun, we need to stop right now. You know that this is not okay with me. So I'm going to go out on the porch or go for a walk or what, while you calm down because you just stepped over. But you didn't only let her step over your boundary. You let her set up camp. She had started a fire. She got a little tent going on, right? She invited the family over. You let her really fester into it, and you got angrier and angrier and angrier, which doesn't solve anything. So just knowing your boundaries, that's awesome, but then you need to honor them.
That boundary setting is something that I hadn't done. I did it, and this is the best way to get in a relationship, is not look for a relationship, look for friends. And then when you it totally snuck up on me. Like literally, I went to 2 movies with him and I knew he liked me. And I was sitting there in the first movie, my leg on his lap, and he's rubbing my leg because I like being touched, not because I like you, just I like being touched. And I look at him and I say, you know, the girl who ends up with you is going to be really lucky. And then 4 hours later, partway through this other movie we're seeing, it hit me upside the head, just like, oh crap, I love him. Did not have any clue. But the first thing I did is I gave him 4 rules because I had never set boundaries before. How can someone cross a line if there is no line?
Right?
And if your boundaries are this piece of rope that you've tossed on the floor, they're going to kick it farther every time you're not looking. And if they kick it too far and you have a fit, they'll pull it back like a smidge, and then they'll push it forward. And then you're going to be there like, how did this man end up talking to me the way he does and treating me the way he does versus the way it started? Because if someone had walked up to you and started treating you the way they do after a few months or a year, you never would have had anything to do with them. So setting boundaries is key. And then saying, oh, even if it wasn't a boundary you set, if they do something and it gives you that knot in your stomach and makes you unhappy, be like, I don't like what you just did. I don't like how that made me feel. Do not do it again. And you have to be strong in that. And it's really hard if you are an empathic, naive, young 22-year-old who just wants people to like her and is trying to be kind and good to everybody. That is really, really hard to do.
And being afraid, I mean, one of the fears, at least for me, because you're when you're in this type of relationship, you believe that, well, no one else would want me, right? I'm not good enough. And so I'm not going to enforce my boundaries because I don't want to drive him away, because then what? Then I have no one, right? I've learned, Heather, to love who I am and love my solitude, actually. And if someone comes into my life to share that space, that's fantastic. And if they don't stay, that's okay too, because I'm so comfortable with who I am.
Narcissists do not do that. Narcissists need somebody around.
Right.
Part of the reason that women will end up staying in a relationship like that is because they remember who they were at first, and they don't realize that the person they were at first was them playing a role. It's not them. They went out, they don't need acting lessons. They have it. It's a process. And if you think it is just you, part of it is you haven't looked it up. Go online, look up the things that a narcissist does, and your jaw will drop because you will think it's just you or it's just them. And this happens to men too. There are female narcissists.
Oh my God,
They
yes.
manipulate. Oh my goodness, you would not believe the things that these people are capable of without even thinking about it. And part of the reason we get sucked in is we're like, because we want to be the best we can be, because we care so much, we put that on them. And it's one of the few things that he ever said that is so true. You expect people to behave the way you do. If someone doesn't trust you and they're suspicious of you, they're likely not trustworthy. If someone thinks you're cheating on them all the time, they're probably cheating on you. That people expect others to act the way they would, to react the way they would. Think about that, because that's a really good tip.
Exactly. I used to call my ex a chameleon because I would watch him. We belonged at one point to a meditation group, right? And literally we would walk in the door and his physiology would change to match that scene, and his language would change. And I'd be like, well, that's not the man who just drove me here, right? It never occurred to me. And I honestly don't think he was aware that this is who he was.
No, they want to be liked, and there's still people who thought he was a great guy.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. There's people who do know his true personality, but nobody knows everything that I went through except me. My kids went through enough, and they know some, but they don't know it all.
Right.
Nobody does, because we hide it.
Because we're ashamed.
And they are such chameleons. Like, to this day, like Craig and I went to, my fiance now, we went to a friend's house and we had a great time. And when we walked out the door, my emotions all dropped, my stomach knotted up, and I was waiting for him to tell me everything that I had done wrong and why he was displeased with me, because that was what I was programmed to expect. It is programming. We get it because we live it for so long. We were painting when I had first met him. That's how he got me to get to know him, because I wouldn't date him, is he hired me to paint for him, because my brain was fried after 25 years of mental abuse. Your brain's toast. So I wasn't doing the accounting and the financial advising, and he hired me to paint for him. And we were on these two sheds, and I was inside one and he was over at the other, and I heard, "Heather, come here." What did I do wrong? Oh crap, what did I do? What did I do?
First thing you think, yeah.
Why is he upset with me? Oh my gosh. All he said was, "Heather, come here." But I had been programmed for so long that when that was said, I was about to be told all kinds of negative things. I got over there, he's like, "Have you ever seen a bug like this?" No, I haven't. And it's just, that is how deeply programmed you become. And it takes help and time to get out of that.
It definitely, and that's where you do the mindset work, because it really is a shift with mind, and it takes years, having 3 months or 4 months with a psychiatrist or with a coach is not going to fix you, right?
No.
And I hate the word fix, because we're all broken. we're all broken, but to shift your perspective into a healthier perspective.
It takes time. It's
Yeah.
been almost 7 years. And I mean, I stopped having, the last nightmare I had about him being alive and like chasing me in some form or another, like back alive, like like what do you do with the life insurance? Because like he was cremated, and like what do I do
How did
with
that
this
happen?
now?
Right.
Like, right. So the last time was actually when I recorded my first podcast episode, which was my story, the night before, which was last year, like the end of last year. So 6 years out, little over 6 years, was the last nightmare I had of him acting like that. I have had him show up in some dreams since, but not that way, just basically on the sidelines and not as a threat. So I think that energy has been cleared out now, which is really good, but it took a long time.
And it really does, because it becomes part of your DNA, right? It becomes part of who you are. For me, I mean, I would say that I've been working on myself my entire life. I mean, like I said, we were in a meditation group, and I did a lot of encounter work then, which is probably why I was with him for a short time. We were together 4 years. That's it. But the work that I've done on myself most recently, the last, 2 years for sure, guys, and you know why, but the last 5 years has been all about accepting who I am, the dark side, as well as the light side, right? Because I'm such a believer in the universal laws, and the law of polarity will tell you can't be all light. It's impossible. You can't have light without dark. You need the two of them to coexist. And there's nothing wrong with the dark. That's our judgment, right? That's the judgment, and that's a human thing. That's not, you can change your language towards that. And when you change your language towards those emotions, the fear, sadness, shame, guilt, those emotions, when they come up, you go, hey, you're an old friend. I haven't seen you for a while. Come on out and talk to me. Why did you show up? What is it that you're trying to tell me? What do I need to watch out for? Is it real, or are you just kind of sticking your head in because I haven't seen you for a while? Right? Seriously, have a conversation with that dark side, because usually there is a reason, something that you need to be aware of that you're not paying attention to.
And you usually manifest in your body.
Right.
Anytime your body is acting up in any way, ask it what it is trying to tell you, because there is a message. Your body is all knowing, actually. The dark, when you say the shadow side, I had heard Debbie, I forget what her name was. She wrote a book on your shadows, embracing the shadow. And I had issues with that. It's like, well, what is my shadow side? Because the wording can throw you off because there's a connotation with that. It's not negative things. It's just parts of you that you aren't as proud of, or maybe you are proud of, but you think you have to hide in some way, or disown. I'm not a person that gets angry very
I was just going to say
easily.
anger is one of them. Yep.
Yeah. Sadness. I think I had sadness hogtied in the corner because it's like, shh, nobody can know. So happiness reigns supreme in my life. But I'm a very authentic person. I don't put on airs. I don't become a different person. What you see is what you get. This is who I always am. But I spent so long, although I'm only 35, I don't age like most people. No, if you go by the numbers, you'd have to reverse that, but I'm only 35. So, but it's taken me 53 years to get to a point where this year, this January, I actually have stepped into saying, this is me 100%.
Unapologetic.
And those of you who love me are going to love me. And those of you who don't, just go away. You don't need to be around. I'm a piece on the buffet table of life, and you don't need to put me on your plate. Right. Just walk past. I'm here for other people. I'm not here for you. So I have, on every podcast I've been on since then, I have actually stepped up and said, yes, I am an incarnated fairy.
I love that you said that. We talked, and I talked about my dragon, right?
Yes. And yep. It's, do you know how brave you have to be to say something like that? It's the same as the people putting on shows, the musicians and the singers. They had to be brave to get up on that stage and be 100%. When you go to see their show, you expect 100% of them being who they are. You don't want them hiding parts of them. You want to see that they're embracing that act. I watch wrestling with my fiance. So on AEW or WWE, when those wrestlers come out and they're doing their poses and they're acting all cocky and they're coming down to the ring and they're like, yeah, you expect it. It feels so real. But do you know how brave they may have to be to do that the first time?
Right. Well, maybe every time. Maybe every time. So my favorite story is Sir Walter Olivier was a very famous Shakespearean actor. Mm-hmm. Every night before he went on stage, he would throw up. And when he was on stage, he never 100% looked straight at the audience. Yet he is renowned as one of the top ever Shakespearean actors.
Wow.
So, he just knew he loved what he had to do, but had to get through fear every time.
But anxiety and excitement show up exactly the same in your physical body.
Yes.
It's your interpretation of it. Are you anxious and worried and scared, or are you really excited and jazzed to be going to do what you're going to do?
Right.
that I think that is part of the key.
Yeah. It's really, really amazing. I wrote down, you said authentic, being authentic, and part of that, at least for me, journey of being authentic is that, like, definitely owning that I'm a dragon rider, that I see dragons in my life as I see phoenixes. But it's also being so confident with who I am and with who you are, that there is no judgment with you, because I'm not judging myself, right? If I'm not judging me, then there is no judgment for me to have with you. And with that judgment, there is no putting on pedestals. That was my last big bomber of a lesson, was stop putting people on pedestals, right? And I have a friend who had a recent relapse, and she had said to her husband, I'm so ashamed of the people I'm going to disappoint. And so he and I were talking, and I said, she can't disappoint me because I never put her on a pedestal. She's just is who she is. And, I'll love her either way because I never put her on her pedestal. I know she's human. And
If we could see, if we could hear the internal dialogue of the people we're speaking to, we would be shocked. I've had people who think that, oh my gosh, just their impression of me or their impression of other people. And for instance, just the other day, someone was like, oh, can you come and do a training for these 3 friends of mine? They're in the same sort of situation that you were talking about, and I will pay you. And my internal dialogue, what do you think when she said that? What would you think my internal dialogue would be? I've been an accountant for like 30 years, or doing account. What would you think my dialogue would be?
well, my first thought was, okay, so 3 people who are in an abusive situation that need to get out.
Well, no, this was actually with the financial part.
Oh, with the financial
Not the
partner.
abuse.
Oh, okay. So I know some people who are like going under financially, and I know
But
that you
she
can
offered to pay me to do
because they can't.
to help them. My internal dialogue was like, oh crap, what do I charge? Oh, is that going to be too much? And I'm thinking like, not much. And oh, maybe I should just do it for free.
Oh,
You see,
yeah,
you wouldn't expect that.
right.
But because, I mean, I had a gaping cavern of lack of deserving. It is now a sliver, but it still exists. It's something you always work on in life. You never get it done. You can't get it wrong and you never get it done. Can't get it wrong, you never get it done. That's a mantra you need to remember, because it's life. You can't get it wrong and you never get it done. What is for you will not go past you. It will circle and circle, just like flies. It will. I didn't finish that thought, but it's just like flies.
Around some rotting food that you digested.
There we go. Yes. Oh my God. Can I tell a joke? Because
Oh,
it
please
just
do.
okay. So there's a police officer pulled over a farmer, and he's going to give him a ticket, and he's not being nice. And I'm trying to remember the joke on the fly here because I only remember the punchline. And he's like, referred to the police officer as, he said, oh, you got a fly going around your head, those circle flies. And the police officer said, what? He said, oh, you can't fool circle flies. And the fly kept going around the officer's head. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, circle flies, they always circle the horse's anus. I ruined the joke because I don't really remember it, but I was excited about it. So.
Oh, that's adorable. That's adorable. So Heather, I love this conversation. I love the fact that, it took you 25 years. Listeners, don't take 25 years, right? You're not broken. You're perfect the way you are, and yes, that is a cliche, but it's true. And there's help
You are
out there.
worthy because you're breathing.
There you go. So how can people get in touch with you, Heather, if they want to know more about what you do?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
If you're searching for me, always do the Heather C. Abbott, because the C will bring me. Without the C, you get a different Heather Abbott. My website is hcabbott, ABBOTT.ca for Canadian. If you do .com, it's still me, but that's my insurance website for Nova Scotia, which you don't want. So hcabbott.ca or search for Heather C. Abbott. I have on the website, you can sign up for my email list, which is Become an Insider. I am going to be launching some market research that I am looking for people, and this will be ongoing. I'm crafting some talks and some books, and to flesh them out, I need answers to these questions so that I can give the value that I want to give. And there'll be a course coming out of it too, which is done sort of like group coaching, because I also am trying to get more questions. So I'll teach and then do the group coaching. And it's, if you do the market research, and if you're listening to this before I do the course, anyone who does the market research is going to get a 50% discount on the course, which will already be marked down, because it's group coaching has a high value, but I'm not going to be charging group coaching rates. I'll be charging course rates. So.
Which is different. So will this be on your website? Because this will be coming out, I think, in July.
There will be a link to market research on the website. I am going to put it up there and leave them up. This course might be done by then, but there will likely be more coming. Teaching and training people in higher numbers is my passion. So my main goal is to do more paid speaking on bigger stages, so they don't have to be big stages, but just reaching more people at a time, so that I'm leveraging my time, because I have the option of staying small and impacting a few people, or stepping into my purpose and putting myself out there, making myself huge, which also makes a huge target. But I have faith that people are not going to be trying to sling bows and arrows at me. And that's where I will fulfill my purpose, is reaching a large number of people. So that's my goal.
So I'll give you a piece of advice that I got from a friend of mine. I put a post out on Facebook, and I got some hate remarks on the post. And I actually took one of them down. And a friend of mine is like, I was like, stabbed me in the heart. And she goes, "Congratulations, Gail. You made the big time. If you didn't make the big time, no one would have noticed you, and you wouldn't have gotten the hate remarks."
Yeah. And
so,
remarks, you don't have to accept them. They're like gifts, other people's opinions. It's like if someone walks up to you, hands you a gift you don't want.
Yeah.
Just say, no, thank you. I don't
take them down anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's someone else's perspective, and that's okay. Yep. Yep. So thank you so much, Heather. And yes, do get in touch with her, and I'll put this information in writing down in the comments so that you can find her. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. If something came up for you during this, by all means, let us know. Maybe something that we could dig deeper into in another conversation. If you know someone who could benefit from this, please share this out. And always, always, always like it, subscribe to it, share it. Let us know that you're listening. We love you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Heather.
Bye.